This is Sydney, a city packed with beaches, lots of skyscrapers, a magnificent harbor, and most importantly, people. But why is this city so famous, and how to get to where it is today? This is an all-new Moton Geography City Sunday video, Sydney. Welcome back to the Moton Geography City Sunday series. In this all-new video, we'll cover the history of Sydney, its natural beauty, the world-famous attractions, and the tallest building in the entire city. You'll want to stick around to the end, where we'll ask you, the viewers, an all-new trivia question. Now let's jump right in and talk about the history of Sydney.
Indigenous Australians arrived at the modern-day island approximately 50,000 years ago. These peoples split into many tribes with unique languages and cultures. The indigenous belief centered on ancestral beings who created the natural beauty around them. In April 1770, British explorer Captain James Cook landed on the east coast of Australia. Cook and his men harassed the local Aborigines, shooting them and stealing their weapons. These first impressions were just the beginning of British hostility towards the Australian Aboriginals. In the 1780s, Great Britain needed a new place to keep their overcrowding prison population. Throughout the 18th century, Britain had transported many of its criminals to their North American colonies to work as indentured servants. However, the independence of the 13 American colonies in 1776 had closed this option. Britain looked to Australia for the answer. In 1788, British Admiral Arthur Phillip arrived at the Australian shore with the First Fleet, 11 ships with more than 1,400 people, including 700 convicts. Phillip chose an inlet, which he named Sydney Cove, to establish the new penal colony of New South Wales. The British were met with little resistance. The indigenous peoples could not effectively coordinate against the European invaders due to their scattered and tribal nature. Many of the Aboriginals were killed in skirmishes with the settlers or died of European diseases. The British government provided free land and free convict labor to settlers, leading to the rapid growth of Sydney. However, in the early days of the colony, governors, free settlers, and convicts were in constant tension due to poor conditions and lack of food. Tides began to change for Sydney with the governorship of Lachlan Macquarie beginning in 1810. Macquarie was a visionary for New South Wales, transforming the colony from a penal economy to one based on free settlement. Macquarie ordered the building of hospitals, schools, courthouses, parks, and various other public work projects. Macquarie also attempted to bring the Aboriginals into British culture by assimilating them into European traditions. This policy was despised by Aboriginals who mounted resistance to their colonial overlords. Macquarie responded by sending soldiers who massacred the peoples of the Gundara and Dharawal clans. In the mid and late 19th century, the population of Sydney exploded. Large numbers of immigrants, especially of British and Irish origin, flocked to the city. This can partially be attributed to the discovery of gold near the city in 1851. The gold rush era saw great economic prosperity for Sydney. At the same time, the nearby city of Melbourne was also experiencing a similar growth, leading to a rivalry between the two cities that still exists today. Sydney's great boom at last came to an end in the early 1890s. A financial crisis in Australia's banks plunged the nation into economic depression. By the 20th century, Australia's economy had begun to rebound and the city of Sydney was rapidly industrialized. In 1910, the Commonwealth of Australia was created by unifying the British colonies on the island. Sydney witnessed another economic blow during the Great Depression as the world's economy sank into crisis. The Depression hit Sydney particularly badly, putting many people out of work in and around the city. However, the 1930s was also accompanied by the completion of the Sydney Harbour Bridge, an iconic piece of the city's skyline today. Following World War II, Sydney experienced another economic and cultural revolution. Economic prosperity allowed for the implementation of many ambitious infrastructure projects. This included the Snowy Mountain Scheme, a hydroelectricity irrigation complex completed in 1974. During the 1960s, Australian activists brought to the forefront the atrocities that white settlers had committed against Aboriginal peoples. In response, a process of reconciliation began, which is still present today. In 2000, Sydney hosted the 27th Summer Olympics. The city tirelessly prepared for the momentous sporting event. The 2000 Olympics featured the Olympic tennis debut for world-class tennis stars Venus and Serena Williams, as well as many other famous athletes from around the world. Today, Sydney is a multicultural city, with 31.7% of its population foreign-born and over 250 different languages spoken on its streets.
The city Sydney lies along the Pacific Ocean in the eastern Australian state New South Wales. Sydney is mostly characterized by its natural harbours and pristine beaches, of which nearly 70 are found in the metropolitan area. Sydney Harbour itself is a ria, a partially submerged glacial valley forming a coastal inlet. As a result of this fascinating natural phenomena, the Sydney area is carved by sandstone cliffs and low valleys. To the west of the city are the beautiful Blue Mountains of New South Wales, a unique plateau formed nearly 1 million years ago. These mountains feature stunning natural structures, such as the Three Sisters Rock Formation. As the center of Australian culture, history, and architecture, Sydney features many famous attractions. Perhaps the most famous is the Sydney Opera House, a UNESCO-registered World Heritage Site sitting along the pristine Sydney Harbour. Many know the Opera House for its distinctive architecture, but less so for the history behind its construction and fame. In the 1950s, the New South Wales Premier Joseph Cahill held an international design competition between 233 architects representing 32 countries. One of the contest submissions would be the obscure Danish architect Jorn Utzon, who submitted his entry just before the competition closed. Legend tells it that Judge Eero Saarinen, overwhelmed by the sheer size of the entry pool, pulled Utzon's design sheet from a pile of rejects and proclaimed it the winner. While Saarinen later denied this story, it is clear that Utzon's design was an unlikely choice amidst the 233 designs submitted. Within close view from the Opera House is also the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Nicknamed the Coat Hanger due to its unique shape, the bridge is the 7th largest spanning arch bridge and one of the widest bridges at its length. Unknown by most is that the bridge copies the structure of the Hell's Gate Bridge, located in New York City. South of the Sydney Harbour, along the east bank of the city, lies the popular tourist attraction Bondi Beach. Bondi Beach is one of the most visited tourist attractions in all of Australia and is the main contributor to Sydney's beach vibe. The beach itself is fitted with a shark net, as it is also a tourist destination for pods of whales, dolphins, and lone sharks. Occasionally, fairy penguins swim along the sandbar. The tallest building in Sydney is the Crown Sydney, an 890-foot skyscraper with a luxury hotel, a spa, and apartments. While construction planning began as early as 2012, the tower was only just finished in December of 2020 after the final installation of nearly 7,000 glass panels. Near the Crown Sydney is the much older but significantly taller Sydney Tower, which reaches approximately 1,001 feet. Built in 1975, the Sydney Tower features a 915-foot high observation deck, providing excellent views of the harbour, surrounding buildings, and the Pacific Ocean. Ranging from the sunny beaches to the beautiful Blue Mountains, Sydney is truly an Australian city of wonders, and it was our pleasure to explore its amazing history, geography, and attractions. For those of you who watch our country series, we accompany all our videos with a fun trivia question. Starting now, our city videos will also feature a trivia question. For this video, the question is, which city is closest in population to Sydney, according to the United Nations population estimates? Tweet your answer to the hashtag MotonGeography and make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at GeographyMoton for the answer. Thank you for watching the 5th episode of Moton's Geography City Sunday series. Please consider subscribing to this channel and liking this video. Make sure to also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for updates, information, and even polls for our next video. Also, a special thanks to our Patreon subscriber, Adela Hernandez. You can help us too by visiting www.patreon.com/Moton. Thank you, and see you next video.